So I saw this article, I saw the headline, and I could not believe it. I could not believe it. So in this segment, we're going to be talking about British businesses essentially being told by the government to stop moaning and pay British people more. And again, in certain industries that will work, in certain industries that won't work, and we'll talk about that in the article. But yeah, this is wild. This is so wild. I could not believe it. So, ministers have warned companies that they should increase their wages rather than complain about the shortage of foreign labour. The pandemic and Brexit, more Brexit than anything, of course, but we have to blame COVID, have combined to cause a staffing crisis in restaurants, cafes, warehouses, and factories as fewer foreign workers have been looking for work in the UK. That's because of the rules around, visas and things like that. But firms have been criticised for offering poverty wages to prospective staff while lobbying for immigration rules to be relaxed, which to an extent is true. People don't want to work in certain job roles because of the poverty wages. But if the government were determined to fix that, they would raise the national living wage. They would go to a proper living wage. That would be the main thing that would help. But these jokers don't want to do that. They want to let industry deal with it, and this is how industry have dealt with it. Meanwhile, driving schools for lorry drivers have been flooded with applications after retailers were forced to raise salaries to over £50,000 amid a national shortage. So, at least they'll earn the money that they should really be earning. The hospitality sector is missing 210,000 staff, or 10% of its total workforce. According to the trade body UK Hospitality, and unemployment has risen during the pandemic to over 1.6 million. Well, you'll get those some people say, oh, why can't you get the unemployed people to work in the hospitality then? Well, obviously, they might not have the expertise, or they might not be even in the locations where the unemployment exists. Critics have blasted bosses who expect British workers to accept low pay and tough working conditions, which would otherwise be taken by migrant workers. Now ministers are demanding firms raise wages and make jobs more attractive to UK workers, which, again, other countries like Norway have done this. The UK could have done this from the start, but chose not to because we're idiots. Paul Scully, the Minister for the Labour Market, said, "We want to see employers make long-term investments in the UK domestic workforce instead of relying on labour from abroad. Businesses should be looking at how to make employment more attractive, including through wage increases and offering training," which I'm not against that. If UK firms want to hire more people, they have to increase wages and offer more opportunities for promotions. The issue there is it will come with a cost, which is that the price of, goods and services will go up. But the main issue with that is if things like universal credit and the national minimum wage don't follow that, then those industries that are getting pay rises will there will be issues around the industries that aren't getting pay rises because they will no longer be able to afford those kind of goods. People are less likely to go to restaurants if they don't have enough money to live on. So that's the problem there. It has to rise together, or if it rises incrementally in certain industries but not others, that's what causes problems, if that makes sense. So last week, Thomas Heyer, the boss of a Wagamama, complained about staff shortages despite paying a head chef in London less than the real living wage in London. Like, how do you expect to get someone a head chef that's a skilled position? Being able to lead a brigade of kitchen staff, that's a difficult thing to do. How do you pay them less than a living wage? It doesn't make sense. And these guys, these big chain owners, they've been getting away with a lot. And if the government wanted to do something about it, they could have done, but they left it to industry. And, again, they're leading the solution to industry, which is pay people more. Stop making excessive amounts in profit. Andrew Oppie of the British Retail Consortium said UK workers do not want to do those roles for whatever reason, but an audit by the Daily Mail found that several companies suffering from staff shortages are advertising roles below the real living wage of £9.50 an hour outside of London or £10.85 in the capital. I mean, they went on Twitter and saw this, because I've seen this on Twitter as well. Don't claim you've done some big audit and you've done a massive expose. You went on Twitter, lad. Prospective team members at Pret a Manger in London receive a minimum wage of £8.91, which is below the living wage in London per hour, while a team leader would be paid between £10 and 1 pence and £10.35. So again, that's below the national minimum wage in London, and this is a broader conversation a lot more businesses and workers need to have, which is how much are they really worth it? Because workers in London are worth a lot more than that, especially considering how expensive it is to live in London. How do you expect staff to be able to function when they struggle to live? This is a thing that a lot of chain restaurants especially exploit. Cafe Nero will pay all new baristas just $8.91, whilst McDonald's pays $8.91 per hour. So you've got McDonald's, I think, paying around the same rate as Presso Mangio, which is meant to be a slightly more upmarket place, as far as I know. I've never been in there, so I think I bought a sandwich from there at a train station actually. But it's meant to be slightly better, fancier sandwiches and things like that. You think you'd pay the staff a bit more money considering the margins. Costa this week forced to increase wages for baristas in its cafes from a starting wage of $8.91 to $9.36, which again is I think lower. Is still lower than the living wage in London, which is just ridiculous how much these businesses get away with, as it struggled to hire 2,000 extra staff. Because if these companies wanted to, they could easily put the wages up more, to closer to the £10 an hour mark, but they choose not to. These companies do make decent amounts of money. Yes, the pandemic hit them quite badly, but they've always had low wages. They've always gotten away with this. Now they can't do that with the end of freedom of movement. Now that there is, such low unemployment in the UK, what you're having now essentially is people having to shuffle around jobs, which the people that will go to jobs are the ones that offer them the best work-life balance, and also after that the most money. That's what these companies have to understand, is you have to offer people a good work-life balance, decent money, and potentially promotion opportunities. And that's what these businesses aren't doing, and that's what they don't get. Wagamama, part of the £1 billion giant, the restaurant group, is hiring kitchen porters in London on wages of $8.96 per hour. Again, why are you paying the head chef of a kitchen slightly more than you'd pay a kitchen porter? There's a massive gap in terms of expertise between the two. There's nothing wrong with being a kitchen porter, but a head chef, a person that leads the kitchen, a person that's there to, depending on kind of the system they run, is either the one preparing a lot of the food, or a person who's running the brigade, which again, both things are very difficult to do. How are you only paying them £10.45 an hour? It doesn't make sense. And you can see why people don't want to work as a head chef. It's a lot of hours. You're working a lot of hours in the day, very late hours. You have to do a metric ton of prep work, and you get paid $10.45 an hour. That's ridiculous. Many workers have left the industry and have taken jobs in logistics as drivers for supermarkets or in warehouses, which are booming thanks to the growth of online shopping, which people should be doing. If you get a better opportunity to retrain somewhere else, you just take it, because these restaurants don't get it. They won't pay you what you're worth. $10.45 for a head chef, that's madness. Especially at a marketplace like Wagamama's, which isn't cheap to eat at. These companies are making a lot of money. They're robbing their workers. Wages at Amazon, which is hiring 12,000 staff in the UK as part of a massive expansion, start wages at £10 per hour and £11.10 in London. How are you letting Amazon pay more than you, like for sort of entry level jobs, essentially in warehouses, when you're talking a head chef, which is one of the the higher ends of their profession? What is going on? The firm is trying to throw off the reputation of their warehouse staff are poorly paid and forced to work in dire conditions. That's mainly the Amazon staff that work in America, to be fair. A massive $650 billion will be spent on major construction projects over the next decade, supporting 425,000 jobs per year. That's great, Rishi Sunak. That's great, but we don't have enough builders and electricians and plumbers and everything else to get these things built. So that's you're not going to hit the targets you want to hit, pal. So not great. But there are certain jobs like the head chef role. Once they pay a proper wage, which would be probably close to £15 or £20 an hour for a head chef, they'll be able to fill up those roles. The issue is that we are facing a massive skill shortage, as well, with a lot of people leaving. The roles of sous chef and head chef, there are far less of them. Those people with those expertise in the UK, which is going to cause more problems to these restaurants, because now these chefs will have a lot more a lot more options in terms of where they can work. But yeah, again, it's not to blame freedom of movement. That was not the main cause of the low wages. The main cause of low wages was the government that created an exploitative system. They're the main problem here. So crop pickers flying from the Caribbean, crop pickers are flying in from as far away as the Caribbean to help stop fruit and veg rotting in the fields in the UK. They're saying about farmers have increased wages to £20 an hour, which is unsustainable, because they won't make the margins, especially given how much of a stronghold supermarkets have on prices. But point being is that even if you have increased the wages to £20 an hour for fruit picking, it's such a not a dangerous job, sorry, such a hard physical job to do. You're not going to attract a lot of British people to do it, even if you start paying, ridiculous money essentially. That's simply not going to happen. And that's one of those industries where we're always going to have that industry on the skill shortage list of, fruit pickers and vegetable pickers and processors, because British people don't want to do those jobs. But in terms of the head chef roles, if we had proper training, and of course they paid people properly, not bloody $8.91 an hour, they wouldn't be facing as many problems as they are now. But these companies are ridiculous, Pret a Manger and Wagamama. According to this article anyways, but the Daily Mail getting involved, very left-wing, the very left-wing Daily Mail telling businesses to increase their minimum wage. Crazy stuff here, crazy stuff. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.